Hello from the home office here in Dublin, Texas. I'm Brad Stanford, developer of Knowpher, and this video is a quick walkthrough of Knowpher, the project manager for solopreneurs. If you haven't already purchased Knowpher, I'm hoping this video will show you why you should. And if you have, I am very thankful. And you can use this as somewhat of a quick start guide, but there's a lot more detail in the training videos which you should have access to based on your purchase. So let's get going. I'm going to open the Knowpher demo here. Now, I'm not going to get into settings in this video. I cover that in the Knowpher training videos. So for this video, we're going to assume that you've already set up your companies, your clients, and you've got some projects rolling right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a project already in progress and show you the main process, starting with entering notes and ending with receiving payment. Now at this point, I want to give you my developer's caveat, and every developer knows the developer's caveat, which usually takes the form of, oh, please don't judge me, this isn't my best work, it's just an experiment, it's not finished yet. We all have said it and heard it. But seeing that this is a finished product, my caveat's a little bit different. It's very Steve Jobsian in the fact that I built this product for me, and it's my minimum viable product for what I need to do. So if any time during the video you ask yourself, what was he thinking? Why did he do the design like that? That's because it's my minimum viable product, and I'm just trying to keep myself organized. And every day I think of a new feature or integration I would like to add, and you will too. Even as you watch the video, you'll think, oh, it should work like this. And the reason that it's not there already is because, like I said, minimum viable product. This is what works for me right now. And I will continue to modify my own version to do what I need to do. So, okay, with the developer's caveat out of the way, let's go straight into a meeting with this client. So I'm going to jump in here to notes. I'm going to filter it to the project I want. Don't have any notes for this project yet, which is okay. This project specifically, the Small Steps is the name of the system. Small Dreams is the company. DataMate Solutions is the one that brought me this client. I'm working for them in this case. So it's for tracking finances for a contractor who builds homes, right? So in this meeting, the client says, I'd like to add 2 new features. The first is the ability to push a button and print a report of all my open projects. It needs to show me the name and the address of the property, the budget for the project, the money spent so far on the project, and the amount of budget remaining, right? We've all heard this before. So in the meeting, I've got this open, and I hear something that's a new note, so I just click on New Note. Now, because it's filtered up top, up here already, it goes ahead and fills that in. So what I want to do to enter a note is I want to give it a certain format so that it will carry through the system. And here's how I've set this up. I'm going to give it a section name. Oops. There we go. And then I'm going to add the summary of what I need to do, which is create a project financial status report. And I'm just going to copy and paste this over here. All right. And then I want to add detail. So whatever I translate, whatever the user wants here, however I translate that into my own understanding, I put that in there like that. So the user should be able to push a button and print, etc., etc., etc. Now I want you to notice that I'm using you don't have to do this, but I'm using phraseology that gives me a testing point. When it says the user should be able to, and the client signs off on this phraseology, that's your test point. If the client after this says, well, it doesn't do such and so, you can say, well, this is what we agreed to. The user should be able to push a button and print this report that has these specific columns, right? So I'm specifically using phrases like that on purpose, all right? So then the client says, I'd also like this report to be in dashboard form when I log in, like a main page, right? But on that layout, I just want to show budget remaining. So basically a quick list. I open up the program, I see projects, and here's the budget remaining. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and enter that note as well. And with the magic of editing, there's the note. And now, at the end of the meeting, the client says, go ahead and estimate those items and get approval before you work on them. Okay, no problem. So because I've taken my notes in this format, all I have to do for each one of these is click on Add Estimate Item. Now what it's going to do is it's going to ask me to select an estimate that's already in existence for this client, which we don't have any, or create a new estimate, which is what I'm going to do. And now notice that the estimate button gives me the estimate number that this item is a part of. And if we click on that check mark, it will take us to that related estimate. So I'm going to go ahead and select the estimate that I just created for this guy, so they're both on the same estimate. And now we can go and look at it. And there's our estimate. This next part is the part that's going to save you a lot of money and keep you from going over time and over budget. I'm going to click into this first one, and we have the section, the title, and the description, because I broke it up into those three parts in the note, right? So transferring these things to an estimate, super simple. And notice we've got these two tabs down here, steps in this item and related documents. I want to focus on steps in this item right now. This portal down below is set for entry already, right? You can see the record, the ghost record sitting there. When you click in the field, there's a drop-down list of tasks you can perform. Now these are steps that you define in settings, and they have times attached to them based on how long it takes you to perform these tasks. The training videos go into this in more detail, but for now they exist and we can select them by clicking. So what do we need for this report? Well, we need a layout. So I'm going to select the one called Create Layout and Reorder in Layout Manager. All right. This accounts for the time it takes to not only create the layout, but to maintain it in the solution in an organized way. Now 0.004 hours equates to about 15 seconds. And I know what you're thinking. Why would you estimate something that only takes 15 seconds? It's simple, because all of those little 15-second items add up to the reason we go over time and over budget, because we write off all these little things and say, oh, that's fine, I got it covered. And we really don't. The only other thing I want to point out here for now is that there are two important columns. Right? We have estimated time and then time plus. The estimated time is the raw time that you think it's going to take you to do this thing. The time plus represents the time that it will actually take you. In other words, you're always wrong, right? So in your estimate, you're always wrong about how long it's going to take. It's always going to take a little bit more. So that is adjustable here in this buffer. There's also discounts you can give, and I'll go over those in the training videos. But for now, just understand that you get two ideas out of this. You get raw time, and you get probably a more realistic time. And it's only these two fields down here, under total estimated time, that go on the estimate. All right, I'm going to edit in the rest of these items with the magic of post-production, and then we'll see what our estimated time is for this item. Okay, as you can see, I've got all the items in now, and it's going to take somewhere between 0.962 and 1.203 hours to accomplish these things in our estimate. So I have the choice to interpret those numbers as low and high estimates if I wish, but whatever I choose, I'm at least going to be far closer than pulling numbers out of thin air based on stuff that I've done in the past, which may be different now with different versions of FileMaker coming out so often and such. Maybe I'm faster, I don't know, maybe I'm slower, who knows. But at least these numbers give me the chance to get as close as possible to my current skill set and the actual items it takes to get this thing done. So there are some other factors about taking the extra time to estimate this way. It's far easier for me to just review the steps later to do the work when the client okays the work 2 weeks, a month, 2 months later, and I forget what I was thinking when I bid this thing because we've had other things happen. So I can just come back and look at the steps and say, oh, yeah, okay, I know how to do that. And then in a team environment, estimating this way allows me to get help if I need it. I can just hand this off to another developer and say, look at these steps and do that. This is what I was thinking when I estimated this thing. And finally, all the lost time we're incurring here when we're estimating can now be rolled into these line items so that we don't lose any money. In fact, the estimates that we spent time on that didn't get accepted, those hours can be rolled into these estimates as well. So this is a way for you to recover that lost time that we all wonder about, how is that going to get paid for? Well, this is the way that you can get paid for that stuff. And so now you can focus your time on doing your best work and your best estimates rather than doing your most rushed work. So at this point, we're going to decide on what to put for our low and high estimates. Now, if I close this card right now with nothing in those fields, notice there's no low and no high, right? So everything depends on these two fields. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 1 hour for my low and 1.5 for my high. I feel comfortable about that. Now I want to point out the line items that I put in this thing because I want you to get an idea of some of the things you can account for. All right, so first I did the create layout. We did that before the cut. And then I added 6 fields. I accounted for some layout tweaking. Then I accounted for the emails that are sent to the client saying, hey, I want you to check out the layout. The client sends back email. I spend time reading it, assessing what I need to change, if anything. Then I send another email back saying, hey, like this. Or we do a quick meeting or whatever. So I went ahead and accounted for that, a couple of rounds of client revisions. Doesn't mean you're going to burn that money. It just means you want to make room for it, right? So then I added the button. We have to have the button to push to open the report itself. And then time to do a script with comments. I'm going to go ahead and get paid for putting those comments in there. So a year from now when I have to troubleshoot or add something to the script, I have taken care of teaching myself what I need to learn about what I did a year ago. Right? So all of that has to be accounted for, and this set of line items should be pretty decent about doing that. Okay, I want to use the second line item to show you how to use this estimating thing if you just refuse to slow down and you don't want to do these line item things. You just want to have an estimate and send it to the client. Great. So this is same as the report, but only show budget remaining. Okay, so the original report took an hour. I'm going to be able to steal stuff from it, so I'm going to say it's going to take somewhere between a quarter hour and half an hour. Done. Right? So there's my low and my high. If you don't want to go through the process, that's what you do. You just put in the numbers it's basically what you're doing already. You're just guessing, you're putting it in, and there you go. There's your estimate. And now you can send that to your client. If we pop down here to this button, then it does a breakout of low and high, and this will print out. Right? So here is where we can go ahead and account for project management if you want to do that. So somewhere around 20%. 20% of your time is going to be spent just managing this thing, right? And so now we have a low and a high range to send to the client. So if we go ahead and save that thing off, we get a nice preview. Here's what that's going to look like for the client. They're going to have their breakout down here and your range here. So that's how the estimate piece works. All right, now let's assume that we've sent this estimate off to the client and the client's okayed all the work. So now we want to turn these estimate items into actual requests. So it's as simple as just clicking on this check mark right here. And now it's a request, and we can see that by clicking on it again. Now it tells us what the request number is, and if we click go to request, it'll pop us over into the requests area and show us that filtered for this particular project. Let's go ahead and check off the second one, and we'll head on over. Here, I'll do this one so that we pop in straight into the detail for this particular request. So here is our, again, it's carrying through the whole system. Here is our section, the title, and the description. Remember, we wrote all that in notes, and it's gone through estimates, and now it's a real request. So anytime you want to work on something, you just come open the request, and let's just say it was 8:30. 8:30. And then you end whenever you end, and you put, did the work. Put whatever detail you want to put in here, and I would highly recommend you almost journal what you do here so that when somebody asks you, what'd you spend your time on, you'd be able to show them the detail, or just remind yourself what you did and tell them. But anyway, so that's what this section is for, and this is where you put all of your time entries. And this is what the request list looks like. Now in the training, I go through all the sections here. We're in the list. There's a bin where you can check off the things that you want to work on today, and it shows up in the bin. And there's also a meeting screen where you can use a variation of this layout right here to run your meetings if you want to, and go over the things that have been done and the things that need to be done next. We can get into that later in other videos, but in this one I just want you to see the ease of use going from estimates to requests. You log your time. Let's go ahead and put something on building the dashboard. Let's say that happens today 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. There we go. All right, so now that we've got some time in, and notice that it's telling us, oh, we went over time on our dashboard estimate, right? So handy little indicator there. So we head over to time and see what we've got. I just want to see anything that needs an invoice. And here we go. Here are our 2 line items. And now what I have to do is say, okay, I worked 1.15. I'm going to bill. They only want me to bill in quarter hours, so I've got to bump that up. And then 1 hour for that. That's awesome. And then I'm just going to create invoices from that found set. Okay, so there we go. There's our invoice, and we can either save it, we can export the line items in case you want to send that to a contract company that wants your line items that you're invoicing for, or you can create an email with this invoice. And in the training videos, once you purchase Knowpher, in the training videos you'll learn how to be able to make multiple emails or send this invoice to multiple emails. So that means you could, send one copy to the client and send one copy to you, or if the client has accounting and the project manager that both want it, that'll work for everybody involved. All right, so now I'm going to go get a payment for this thing. So let's go over here, create a new payment. Say they paid the next day. That'd be really nice. So we're going to add a line item and pick the client, and then it'll filter the projects for us, and then it'll filter all the invoices that are open on that project, and it fills in the amount, the total amount. You can modify that right here if you want, if they only did a partial payment. But in our case, the payment is made. We go back to invoices, and if we show paid, now it's there, and we can uncheck, and which is what I typically do. I leave it on unpaid invoices. Well, believe it or not, that's the quick version of what Knowpher is all about. I hope this answered some of your questions, and once again, thank you for spending your time with me and learning more about Knowpher. I really do want you to get paid for every last bit of effort you put into your work. And if you haven't purchased Knowpher yet, head on over to knowpher.com and get your sanity back through organized knowledge.